Hey guys, it's Will here. I'm going to talk about finding ETFs or stocks that have higher highs and higher lows. And I've got a scan for that. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about TC2000, the new, some of the new changes, specifically with the filtering and the scan components to it. So if you don't have TC2000, that's what I'm using here. You can get a free trial or $25 off your subscription if you check out the link in the description below. So this view is actually what I call naked. I've got a tab here, so you can have different views. Like if I go candlesticks, I click on that tab. It's really nice because now all of a sudden I have a whole different view. It could be different watch lists, could be different. There's this moving averages and sort of volatility stops, the green, different indicators underneath here. So, and there's not just charts, but you have financial analysis. Let me see if I can find one. Yeah, like the fundamentals. You can still put charts. One I like is the sector by year. Anyway, so I don't do this. I don't show this chart very often, but naked means there's no moving averages on here and volatility stops. And so they've changed things, TC2000, in the software in a bunch of ways, but I'm only going to talk about if you want to filter your watch lists, or if you want to add a column or whatever. So this little block here is like where you have a watch list. There's tabs. There's a lot of information in this program. It's powerful. So one of my watch lists is called markets. And you have a couple different ways, in my mind, to sort of filter things. One is just use columns to sort things. So for example, somebody asked me this recently, if you needed to scan or if you could just have columns with different, like with percent gain and stuff like that. So I've got actually, let's see, I'm going to go to US sectors. I've got year-to-date percent change. So as of now, it's only January, it's just over a month. So I could sort by the year-to-date change of all the stocks or ETFs in this one called US sector ETFs. Then I've got 90-day, 30-day. So all I did, I'm going to right-click on that and say Edit Column. And it's just C is the close minus close dot 90. So that means 90, 90 trading days before. So I subtract the 2 divided by the close and times 100. So that gives me a percentage. Then I can display, I can put put green if it's positive, or if you want to put a percent like this one, I could have put a suffix percent here like that. I'll just do it now. Did I do that right? Let's see here. Edit column. Suffix. Let's see. There we go. So you got the percent. If you want to have that. So what happens when you want to filter this? So like I said, you can sort it by this. There's also not just values, but what they call true false conditions. So if I edit this column, this is a condition you see here, and it's going to show a check mark if it satisfies that condition. And that doesn't have to be a formula all the time. It can be various indicators. So I'm just saying when it's above the moving averages, PPO thing, to make sure it's above this price percent oscillator. So that's how you can sort things and find the things that you're interested in by creating a column. So if you don't want to just edit a column, let's say you want to add a column, what you do is you say edit all columns, and then you've got a list of all the columns, and then there's a plus sign. And this is where I mentioned earlier, value, which would be like a percent or a number, and then true false would be a check mark or empty if it satisfies a condition. Those are the two that I use. So let's get to the higher low, higher high. So first of all, When you have higher highs and higher lows, that means you're in an uptrend. And when you have lower highs and lower lows, you're in a downtrend. And then there's a transition period between the two. So if you look here, we had this high here, then we had a lower high there, and a lower high. So we keep getting this lower high. So once you start to establish those, you can draw a line across. You can also put a little horizontal line at the high, at each high, to show that it's going downwards. Like if I do that here, and sometimes you have like a double top or double bottom where you've hit it twice, so I stretch it out and use the same line. So you can see here that we broke this. We had a low here, like in this area, and then it broke. And when it breaks right here, there's also a lower high previously right there. So that would be a break of an uptrend. You can draw a line as well, like a trend line. If you start to establish like this, it doesn't always coincide, because what happens is the trend will start to slow down and it'll flatten out. So it doesn't necessarily catch 100%, not 100%, but most of the trend. But that's, one way to do it. Just draw a trend line. And then if it breaks that trend line and you see this falling top, you can get out. But another way to do it is just use these pullbacks as the next high or low, and then once you break that with a lower high, then you get out. So then you can draw your line across the tops, and then you want to see a break of that downtrend. And see, because what'll happen is you'll get these bounces, but then it'll bounce off and bounces off again. That happens a lot of times. So what I want to see is that we've got higher lows again. So this was the same, which could be a good situation, could be a bottom, but you also need that break. So here, if I looked here, right at this candle there, I'm just going to change the icon. If I look at right at this candle here, then you can see that there's a low there, right around there. So you've got that break, and then you can get in. And the other benefit of these pullbacks is that it gives you a good entry point. So you want to make sure that ideally there's a nearby low point. So when you see support after a pullback and you're in an uptrend, you can get in, and then you'll see another pullback, but it didn't get down to this previous one. And then if it starts to go up again, you can sort of set that as your stop. Like, you don't have to put a physical stop in your trading program or your trading account. But so right now, like, this is the NASDAQ. We've got higher lows and higher highs. We're right at this previous high. So if you get a pullback, then you want to get in right after you start to see it establishing support at that point. If you wait and you buy it, say at a breakout right there, then your stop probably has to be just below this point here. So it's a bit further away. So you only want to do that in an uptrend with lower highs, with higher lows and higher highs. I'm going to show you the formula for higher lows and higher highs. So for any of your tabs that you have, you can click on this checkbox which says filter. I'm going to go to another tab which already has the filter checked off here, and you can see it says higher lows, higher highs, which is what I called this scan. And I'm scanning this Canadian sector ETFs. There's a drop down right here. You can change that to US stocks, US ETFs, like here, or your own watch list. In the personal section, I've got a bunch of watch lists. The reason I do my own watch lists is the overall ETFs have a lot of, I wanted to pick, like, there's a lot of duplication of ETFs, like for banks or tech or whatever. There's a lot of duplication. cannabis stocks, you know, the FANG stocks, Magnificent Seven sort of thing. And some of them have higher volumes or better, different aspects of reputation or whatever. And then volume, you can filter for volume as well. But once I've grabbed like sort of the best or the ones that I want to use, because a lot of times like there's the same ETF in all sorts of different companies, right? So if you liked Vanguard's ETFs, or you like Direction has a bunch of these leveraged ETFs, I'll just sort of find the ones that I like and create a watch list. But then you want to filter those watch lists. But when you're trying to find and build your own watch list, you could use the ETFs, like the whole overall stock market, the stocks or the other thing you can do. I mentioned this many times, but there's a button here next to the QQQ called component watch list. So for any ETF, you can open it up, and that's beautiful. And then you can click on any of these and see, like Nvidia, for example, and you can sort. Like I've created a default sort of structure here, view of all these different columns. So these are all custom columns with year-to-date change. So if you say edit all columns, and you click on this little, there's like, once you create various columns, then you can save this as a group. So I right click on this. So that way this pops up every time you open up a new scan or watch list. So this is like the default. So I can sort by percent change, or I can sort by year to date. So Nvidia, Meta, crowdsource, stuff like that. So you can see how these are in beautiful uptrends, like in terms of higher highs and higher lows. So what I wanted to show you guys down here in this chart here is the higher lows, higher highs. So this, when you click on that, you get this pop-up. So these are kind of the columns that were like visible on the screen, like that are just my default ones that I created. But then I've got this one called higher lows, higher highs, and you can turn it off and on with the filter. You can change the time frame if you want to look at weekly charts or shorter term. But if I click on that, it's actually a formula, and it's pretty straightforward, so don't get too worried about it if you see, you know, it looks too technical. But what I did, and there's different values you can use here. There's a function called min and max, so that's the minimum price. And I use C, which is the close. So the minimum close of the last 5 days, that's all that means. Period is, when you put min C5, it's a short form without any brackets or anything. So min C5 is the shortest, concise way to do this. So it's the minimum of the last 5 closes. And that's got to be greater than the minimum of the last 25 closes before the previous 5, the recent 5. So from 5 to 25 periods. And so that means that the close, like the recent close is greater than a previous close. So if you want to use minimum 20, you know, it's up to you. You can try different values. There's no magic to 25 or 5. I could use 10, you know, I could use different numbers here. But one of the things is to make sure the 5 is the same as this close 5, C5, dot 5. So dot just means the offset. So it shifts when it starts, this scan, the minimum of the last 25 periods, but it shifts it by 5. So I could probably shorten that 25 because that's quite a bit. But so I want to say that the recent minimum is greater than the previous minimum. So that's like a higher low. And then the maximum close recently of the 5 periods is greater than the maximum of the previous 25 periods before the current one. So that means that the recent max is bigger than the previous max. So play around with those numbers. So once you have that, it creates this. This is different in the recent version, but it creates like a column that you could actually see in here. I believe if I scroll over, let me just close this. if I scroll over, yeah, so now I could sort this. If I turn off the filter, I can sort by higher highs and higher lows so that all those are on the top. So this is nice because before, I think when I used to scan, or you could have multiple scans and you could turn off and on different scans. And then it also shows you the scan as a column, which is really nice. So similarly, I created a lower high, lower low. And the reason I did that was you might want to short stocks or ETFs, or you might want to buy inverse ETFs. So you can use higher highs, higher lows in the inverse ETF watch list if you've created one. I'll show you that in a second. Or as a first step, you look at the ETFs or stocks that you're interested in and find ones that are in a downtrend. So the formula is very similar. I'll show you. So the max C is less. So it's basically I just put less than instead of greater than. So the current max is less than the previous max, and the current min is less than the previous min. Like I said, play around with those time frames. 5 and 25 could be adjusted. But when I did it, it seemed to work, for the most part. It's not going to be 100% perfect, but so that means that you've got lower lows and lower highs. So if we look at, and like you have to do some visual scanning as well, but look at this chart, like there's only 14 in here. So if we look at ARC, let's say, you can see that we broke this, there was higher highs and higher lows. And say if this was the high and then we broke it, it wasn't from a falling top though, it was just broken the first time. Then we supported at this previous high or low. Once we came back up and then started to fall, now we've created a lower high. So you could consider, if I put an arrow, so over here on the right, there's this little palette of symbols and things. But right around here, if you want to be conservative, like there's different things. You could buy it right on that first break, which is not, you're not really in a downtrend at that point. But once you've created this, lower high here and broke this previous high, then you're definitely in the downtrend. So right now, we're kind of going horizontal. There's a bit of support here. If we break this, that's going to continue this downtrend. The other thing I look at sometimes, just briefly, is the price percent oscillator, which is like MACD. So you can see we're below zero and we're below the price percent oscillator. We crossed it here. We're still below. We haven't broken back up again. Relative strength in relation to the NASDAQ, this is actually worse. You can see how we broke down through the 50-day or the 21 and then the 50. So we're not even doing as good as the NASDAQ. And you can see I've got these columns with percent. So these tend to be red, all red, which is an indication, that we're in a downtrend. If we look at lithium, this is Canadian version, but LIT would be the American one. You can see that we have lower highs and lower lows. What else? This is materials, like metals and stuff like that. Energy as well, we've got these lower highs and lower lows. So if I draw a horizontal line up there, and that was kind of a double top, or almost a triple top basically. But what I like to do, there's a line graphic here. So just to show you that, we have these lower highs and lower lows. We're right at this fairly strong support, but every time we get back up to this trend line, then it kind of breaks. So if you were to get back in, you'd want to see, like here, when you break this, I'll pull back a bit. So I use the roller, the scroll bar on my mouse to go up, in and out, zoom in and out. If we look at this downtrend here, once we've broken that, we had a little bit, this is where you start to see higher lows starting to form. So once you break that downtrend and you have these higher lows, you could get in there. And then it wouldn't be a big gain, because depending on if you decide to get out at any particular point, you can use previous highs like this. If you decide, you want to take your gains, when it's reaching this previous high around here, you just you sell. But if you didn't, it would probably pull back, and then you'd probably would have gotten out at these breaks. Like once you start to see this breaking and you've got a bit of a lower high, if you decided to stay in and you see this time, you probably sell here. It wouldn't have been a very big gain. But now we're definitely in this downtrend right now. But there's a lot of consolidation you can see through here, like a lot of mess, right? So, this video was basically to show you how to do lower highs and lower lows and higher lows as a scan. And like I said, it also creates a column, which you can filter, you can sort, and that's a great way to look at trends. The other thing you can do, if you wanted to, is once you find things that you like, you can flag these, and that puts them into a flagged watch list. So on any ETF or stock, up here in the corner, there's a flag button. You can also do it if it happens to be in your in your grid here. You can click on that. So then what I did, if you go to watch lists and you click on flagged items, it pops up the flagged items that you flagged, and then there's this little move window, and you can say click on that, move, and then you can decide you want to put it, like I usually add it as a tab. I'm just going to hit escape to get out of that. But this watch list is basically moved over to here, so that, because I don't want that in the way, and it also goes away if you close it, so then it's gone. So then once I've got flagged, these are like a subset of all the things I like. So this is the China. You can see we're in a big downtrend, but we just had a slight break. It's not a great situation, but we had a slight break from a lower, we're starting to see rising bottoms, but it's very early on. Bitcoin, this is an inverse, so you can see we broke a downtrend. This is kind of the ultimate entry place to be considering an entry, is you've broken this downtrend and you've got a higher low here. And so that's definitely one to watch. And the other ones that are still in an uptrend are like semiconductors. But, it is quite high. And you can see here the relative strength. It's better than the NASDAQ. It's above it's not quite above the price percent oscillator, but it's curling around. But like I said, this is you want to get in sooner. Like when you broke this, see, when you have higher lows and higher highs, you also have, lower highs and lower lows. You still see the lower lows. Like I can draw a line on the bottom of it as well. And then you can see how we went from here to here to here and to here. We break it, pull back, and then you've got that entry point. And so you've got essentially rising bottoms there. All right, that's good for today. If you want to get TC2000, I've had a bunch of people over the years sign up for it, and I hope you enjoy it. You can get $25 off your subscription. You can get a free trial to check it out. I'm on a Mac, so I've installed it with this Parallels client. And it's quite a high functioning window. It's not like doing this in a browser like TradingView or something like that. This is quite a powerful program with lots of scans. So hope you guys enjoy that. Check out the link in the description below if you want to check out TC2000. And good luck, guys. Talk to you later.